before I get to my question, Mr. Chairman, in the first panel, one of the individuals that appeared before us mentioned me in connection with efforts in the 2016 presidential primary. I am not prepared to comment on that, and any information on that issue hopefully will be reflected in our report, if any. I do think it is appropriate, however, to divulge to the committee, since a lot of this has taken a partisan tone and not in the committee, but in the broader perspective, the following facts. In July of 2016, shortly after I announced that I would seek re-election to the United States Senate, former members of my presidential campaign team who had access to the internal information of my presidential campaign were targeted by IP addresses with an unknown location within Russia. That effort was unsuccessful. I'd also informed the committee that within the last 24 hours, at 10:45 a.m. yesterday, a second attempt was made, again, against former members of my presidential campaign team who had access to our internal information, again targeted from an IP address from an unknown location in Russia, and that effort was also unsuccessful. My question to all the panelists. I have heard a lot on the radio and on television an advertisement for a firm in the United States actively marketed in Best Buy and in other places by the name of Kaspersky Labs. There have been open source reports, which I can cite from, that basically say that Kaspersky Labs has a long history connecting them to the KGB's successor, the Russian security services. I have a Bloomberg article here and others. I would ask the panelists, in your capacity as experts in information technology, would any of you ever put Kaspersky Labs on any device that you use? And do you think any of us here in this room should ever put Kaspersky Labs products on any of our devices or computers or IT material?
I think the way I'd address that is generally people's products are better based on where they're most located and what attacks they defend against. For example, you think about Symantec or McAfee or my company and other companies, we are prominently used in the U.S., so we get to see the best attacks from China cyber espionage campaigns in Russia. In the Middle East, it's already in massive escalation mode, and we're all prominent there. I think what we're starting to see is an alignment where Japan will let a U.S. company secure Japan. South Korea will let a U.S. company defend South Korea. The Middle East will let a U.S. company defend it, but you almost see lines being drawn. There's no doubt the efficacy of Kaspersky's products, they probably get to see different things than we see being this relevant here.
Yeah, my question was not about whether there's an effective tool. My question about is whether you would ever put it on your computer.
My answer indirectly would be there would be better software probably available to you than Kaspersky to defend you here.
Okay.
I'll answer by no, I wouldn't. And I wouldn't recommend that you do it either. There's better capabilities here that you can use. FireEye, for example, and I'm being credited now with that. No, there are other U.S. firms that answer and solve problems that will face you for the issues that you described earlier, Senator, that I think would be better at blocking them.
I would, yes. I would also use competing products at the same time. That's always a bit of redundancy, never harms. But it's important to say that Kaspersky is not an arm of the Russian government. If public evidence, if we look at the publicly available evidence, Kaspersky has published information about Russian cyber attack, cyber intrusion campaigns, digital espionage, about several different Russian campaigns. Name any American company that publishes information about American digital espionage.
My second question to the panel, the time that I have remaining, is my concern in our debate here is that we're so focused on the hacking and the emails that we've lost, and I think others have used this terminology, we've focused on the trees and have lost sight of the forest. The hacking is a tactic to gather information for the broader goal of introducing information into the political environment, into the public discourse, to achieve an aim and a goal. And it is the combination of information leaked to the media, which of course is always very interested in salacious things, or as is their right in a free society. But the public wants to read about that too sometimes. But it's also part of this other effort of misinformation, fake news, and the like. Would you not advise this panel to look simply beyond the emails? That's an important part, to the broader effort of which the emails and the strategic placement of information into the press is one aspect of a much broader campaign.
Senator, that was part of my point about bringing this up to a strategic level and saying that what's Russia trying to accomplish with respect to NATO, the European Union, and the U.S., and driving a wedge between those and creating tensions between those countries and ours. And if you were to go back and look at what's happened to Russia over the last 30 years and then play that forward and see what they're now doing, you can see a logic to their strategy. And I think that's something that we now need to address. I do think we ought to address this with the Russians and get the administration to do that. It's not something that we want to go to war on. It's something that we want to resolve by engagement and confrontation.
How are active measures today different from in the Cold War? This is an answer to your question. In the Cold War, active measures were really artisanal. They required craftsmanship, a lot of hard work, forging letters, doing research. It was a real undertaking. Today, they're not artisanal, they're outsourced. Outsourced in part to the victim, and especially to journalists, American journalists. They add the value to these active measures. And this is important because if we look at the operations in hindsight, they appear a lot more sophisticated than they actually were. So we run the risk of overestimating Russian capabilities here.